You ready, Mike?
Good.
All right. And we're back with another episode of Bright Ideas and Bad Decisions. As always, my name is Dante Gutierrez, and my co-host here, Anthony Thompson, owner of Thompson's Barber and Beauty Shop, where we are having this wonderful session today with our man's Ernest Crim the third. He's Joliet. I'm gonna let him tell you guys a little bit about himself. Tell us.
Yeah, man. I call myself a public teacher. Chicago native, South Side, through and through. Went to school here in Illinois. Came out, started teaching in Chicago and Joliet. Taught for 12 years total. In the midst of that, started to become an activist, author, and I would say now, again, public teacher, Emmy-nominated producer. Got a book coming out. I just try to do my best, man, to play my role and help educate our people as much as possible because there's so much work to be done here. So I'm just trying to play my role, man.
That's awesome. You said Emmy-nominated producer. What did you produce?
So last year, myself and CBS Chicago, they linked up with me and wanted to do something for Black History Month. Mm-hmm. So I spoke with one of the producers, an Emmy Award-winning producer several times, my brother Cornelius Mack. These are the people that work behind the scenes to make this possible. I think it's important to uplift people like him and Relisha as well, who worked with me on this project. They were the ones that put it in motion. So without representation and people who are trying to make change, these things and these images don't happen. So we said we want to do something. And the idea was, well, how can we do something beyond just a single video or single segment? And we talked and said, well, let's do something every day. And thankfully, CBS Chicago approved of it. So we got up one day in January, man, last year, and we recorded for about 7-8 hours straight. I was on crutches recovering from my Achilles tendon being ruptured, man. It was a rough day, but we got it all done in one day. And then we put it out there, we submitted it, and it got nominated for an Emmy, for a local Emmy in Chicago. So, man,
that's
it was
awesome.
Yeah, and again, the whole thing is, it was just this desire to educate people and uncover these truths that are often hidden about us.
And that's amazing. You're gonna have to definitely send me that link so I can watch that, because that's a lot. That's a lot to do with just our community as an entirety. That not just Chicago itself, but the world. You also said you're an author. Tell us about your book.
Yeah, so I have 2 books and a third one coming out. The first book is Black History Saved My Life. That came out in February of 2020. I'm actually re-releasing that this spring, so spring of 2025. It's going to be called How Black History Can Save Your Life. It's an updated version. This is the second edition 5 years later. There are more refined edits. There's some new chapters, some new research. I had to take out some chapters too. There are reflections on what happened in 2020 with the Black Lives Matter movement. There's also reflections on this most recent election. But the gist of it is, I dealt with the hate crime in 2016, and that was when I began to really reflect on all the racism I dealt throughout my life, and the fact that I never believed that I was what white people said about me, and that's because I had a firm foundation rooted in my history and identity. So I go throughout my life, it's almost like a prequel, so I go throughout my life, every situation I dealt with, whether it was like a microaggression or overt racism, and I talk about how my parents or how history kind of gave me some pride moving forward. And then the book kind of comes up to the situation when I dealt with that hate crime. And everything that I talk about, unfortunately, is still relevant, because the things that we deal with as Black folks and Black men, to me, it's relevant in every generation. Because like I speak about when I was teaching at Central when Trump was running the first time, and we got the same thing now. Like the fear people had, the fear my students had when he was running. Also reflections on when Obama was running, the same feeling people had when Kamala almost won, and so on and so forth, man. So to me, it's a book, especially for folks in our generation. We often stop our Black history when King got assassinated, then we pick up with Obama. Right. You know what I'm saying? So I'm filling in all of those gaps and giving us strategic ways to move forward with it. Right?
Hey, Ernest, you know, I'll be watching on TikTok, and I think TikTok is a very good thing for us. And I also I feel like that it's educating our Black people when I hear a lot of things that our Black people don't know. Well, what made you jump on TikTok and start to talk about Black history?
That's a great question. So much of what I do, I owe to my students at Central, man, because I was always someone who understood that I might know the most about the content, but I don't know the most about their life, their experience, especially because most of my kids were Hispanic too. So you got to come in and humble yourselves and say, what is something that they can give me that I can learn? And a lot of my kids, of course, the young folks are always in tune with the new pop culture stuff.
Yeah.
I just remember like around 2020, everybody was talking about TikTok. And when I would get on my private Instagram at the page, we'd always see people reposting these TikToks. And they were just a bunch of goofy videos. So I just thought it was like a funny dance site.
Yeah.
So I didn't really care nothing for it. I didn't want to get on there because I felt like it was just for the kids. But I began to see his story. And so like teachers like me who were posting content there, and it landed on Instagram a lot. And I started to kind of think like, well, maybe I could do something like that, because at that point in time, I was just doing like long form on YouTube and Facebook, and it was reaching a decent amount of people. It was mostly local, but it wasn't really popping like that.
Absolutely.
So I just said one day, now it's 2021. We in the midst of the pandemic, school shut down.
Yeah.
We meeting online, and kids are still talking about TikTok and stuff like that. Also, I remember ABC had a special about a young black girl who created like the first viral dance trends on TikTok, and I got stolen by a white influencer. And I'm like, you know what? Maybe TikTok is really popping right now. Maybe I can just try to jump on there and just see what it's like. I ain't gonna do nothing fancy. I'm gonna create a Black History video. So it just so happened it was like the end of March, and I believe it was the day that Ida B. Wells died in history. So the day she became an ancestor. So I said, well, she's one of my favorite people. So let me make a video about Ida B. Wells. And I said, like, when I make this video, the difference is, of course, when I'm doing YouTube, I'm doing 5-10 minutes, but here it got to be a minute, so I got to be right to the point.
Right.
And I said, well, let me talk how I talk to my students, and I always prided myself on like making the content digestible. So I didn't really try to talk like I was an academic and stuff like that.
Right.
I was like, yo, Ida B. Wells was a G, man.
Right.
Because if we knew about her today as if she was around, that's how we would describe her. Like, that lady, that lady cold right there. So, and that's how I explained to the man. And for me, it was viral. It got like 10,000 views. I had never had something like that.
I love when you say she was a G.
Man,
he was a G.
Straight up. Like,
straight up, man.
That's how we talk.
That's how we talk.
Because if you make these people look like they're these out of space, out of time, heroic figures that we can never be, then kids tune them out. The thing about Dr. King is we love him, but our kids don't truly think they can become him because they don't see him as a regular person.
They see him as a pedestal.
Right. So they see him like an icon, almost like a godlike figure. We gotta break it down like he's a regular person. He just made a decision, and he never did this stuff by himself. He had a whole team of people. So I made that video, man, and it kept going. So I said, well, shoot, let me just keep doing it. And every video I made just kept getting bigger and bigger.
One thing. I remember back in 2020, we was marching for Black Lives Matter in Joliet. It was an incident happening in White Castle, and my friend Andre lived in South Carolina. He told me about Ernest. He said, look up Ernest. Ernest a leader in Joliet. He the next mayor of Joliet. I said, really? So I went to the march, 2020, and the Black Lives Matter back then when it happened in Minnesota, when the guy lost his life and everything. And I met Ernest, and I was like, that's how I met him. That's how we came conversating, and things led to other things. That's how we met up. So that's one of the things how I met up with Ernest. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I was always telling her, I said, he the next mayor of Joliet. he ran, he probably would have won. You know what I'm saying?
I'll be the people's mayor.
But he was like, no. But that's a little thing I came up with.
But in speaking of being like the people's champ, I feel like that speaks more volumes than actually being the mayor.
Right.
Because I feel like elections these days, yes, the people still get their choice to vote. They still, but that can be swung, and there's so much that happens in politics that makes it seem as if it is rigged. They do control that. We don't. So, in knowing that you have a people's champ who is voicing the people's opinions and what they're looking for, and it's still like, I think a true king is a king that doesn't want to be a king.
Right.
I love that. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, when is the last time we had a black politician whose our perception of them remained the same throughout their whole time, their whole tenure? I think in those positions, man, and I ran for city council one time as a write-in candidate. It was like, it was a last-second decision. I didn't really have a chance, but I really believed that I could because I wanted to make a difference. But from all the people I know, personally, and even when I was going through that, just some of the experiences I was beginning to have made me feel like if I get this, either I'm gonna have to change to keep this job, or I'm gonna be a one-term person.
Right.
Because you're asked to do so much to capitulate to different people and not truly be the person that you got in there for. case in point, I don't think a lot of us perceive Obama the same as when he came in. Now, there's a lot we have to understand, of course, because like being the first of anything, especially as a black man,
Absolutely.
that's the most difficult thing ever. Because like I can critique him, I can critique a Jackie Robinson, but then we also got to say, well, could you have put up what he put up, right? But what I mean too is like we gonna put any black person who runs for office, especially the first, on this high pedestal where they'll never meet our expectations.
Absolutely.
They'll never meet our expectations. And I also challenge us to even think about every great leader in our community. How many of them were politicians?
Mm-hmm.
We talk about, again, King, Malcolm X, Rosa Parks, you know what I'm saying, Harriet Tubman, right?
I don't think any of them were politicians. So
And
The average person.
Right, average person, but they forced politicians to do
On them.
When you see Lyndon Baines Johnson signing them documents, he ain't voluntarily do that. Dr. King is over his shoulders.
yeah, like
He's looking like, all right, bro.
Right, like, you got to do it.
And Dr. King's impact goes way beyond that. We don't admire any president, really.
Absolutely.
Like, it's okay, we might say Obama, we might say a Lincoln, but it's always like, well, because that person forced you to do that, Lincoln. We don't look like, we don't admire George Washington. We talking about the black people who was fighting against him because he was enslaving all these people.
Absolutely.
So I think even though it is an aspiration that some people are probably fit for, I think also too we got to highlight the importance of being able to organize strategically and put pressure on folks to do that. And with that said, it is kind of wild to me that we have never had a black mayor in Joliet. And think about this black history.
You should run, but like you said, like
never say never.
that you said that like people have these expectations of what they should be, and I think that nobody should have any expectations of what they should be. I feel at the end of the day, you want to be the best you can be, and if that's the path you want to go down,
Right.
then you follow that path to your fullest extent. God is going to lead you the way,
Yes, sir.
but at the same time, you still need to you need to show up. That's the biggest part of success is showing up,
Yeah.
being there.
Right.
You know, if Dr. King never gave any of those speeches at church, he never would have been noticed.
Right.
If he didn't
Right.
become a pastor, he would never
Right.
had the platform to speak.
Right.
And so, it's especially being a black man in that era, he would have had a much harder time. I mean, not that he didn't have a hard time already, but it would have came across differently.
Yeah.
And I feel like Black history would have been different had he not taken the steps to get a platform.
He took a stand.
He took a stand.
He took a stand. He probably said something that's changed everything. Like, hey, he should be our leader. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
It's like he was an average person like that, average Joe, just saying something, was preaching, and it's something that's hit home. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's our life has been that way the whole time, being black people on earth. You know what I'm saying?
So what do you feel like the black community can do other than coming together, because we're so separated as is, to move forward, to be better, to gain the respect we deserve, not just from white people, Mexicans, or anything, but from society? Because I feel like we have so many societal norms that people, or societal quips that people put on us, that ultimately holds us back. It shouldn't be like I'm walking down the street and the white lady's walking towards me and she walks across the street because she's afraid I'm gonna do something when I'm just walking down the street. I'm trying to get some food.
Right.
Or like people look down on me for driving a car. Like I got stopped by a cop one time because I was driving my mom's car and it was an Audi RS7. And he's like, "Oh, why did you steal this vehicle? You fit the description."
Right.
And like, for what? Just because I'm driving my mom's car? And my mom is Mexican, so like she's
Racial profile.
exactly.
Yeah.
So like, what can black people do to not almost ease the tension and get rid of these societal norms, societal quips?
Man, I would, so I'm coming from the perspective as an educator.
Absolutely.
So I can only speak from that. And I think foundationally, one of the reasons why I love what I do so much is because I'm helping people see themselves in a different light. So I think it starts with knowledge itself. I think we got to put things in its proper place.
Mm-hmm.
So understand that anything that's coming from the dominant culture or the government, whatever, like, it's going to have an ulterior motive to it. It's going to have some fine print that ain't fully for you. There are things we can use it for something to help benefit us, but we can't fully depend on it, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, for example, it's like, okay, we were just talking about, as of this recording, like Trump, they pausing loans and grants and like
Right.
food stamps, food service, right? there can be a period in your life where you might have to depend on that, but you always want to think in your mind that if I become fully dependent on these services, then I can become too reliant and it can be a crutch for me, you know?
Right.
Because if they can pull it away, now I'm starving.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and of course we know there's different situations for everybody, but that's kind of how it works. Same thing with me with student loans, right? I mean, if I got loans to get an education, but I had to be particular about what I use it for.
Absolutely.
I wasn't just in school for the hell of it. It was like, I'm gonna use this so I can get an education, get a degree to teach, and then go back and help the community. Now there's a price I pay for that, but it's worth it considering what the trade-off is, right? So understand what public schools are gonna do. Public schools will never teach our kids about the greatness that they are, how great they are. They're gonna do it maybe for Black History Month, maybe for Dr. King's birthday, maybe Juneteenth, maybe, right? But they're gonna give you small little examples. They're gonna do the same 5 people that we keep talking about: Dr. King, Malcolm X, Rosa Parks, you know, Harriet Tubman, Frederick Douglass. They ain't gonna teach.
Yeah.
We don't even we ain't learned about Black Wall Street in all our years of school. We learned about it from social media, most of us. Matter of fact, in Oklahoma, they ain't even learned about it, and they was there. You know,
Absolutely.
so we gotta say the school is gonna teach our kids and teach us how to adjust to society. That's important in some respects.
Mm-hmm.
There are some places you go to where you have to be able to kind of shift who you are to kind of just fit in for a moment. But then we got to take our responsibility as a community and people to tell our kids, but this is who you truly have to be outside of that. Use that tool to build that house, but you can't use that tool over here, right?
Absolutely.
So I would say with that, we got to completely shift our role models. The reason why we did so great at being self-sufficient back then is because 100 years ago, nobody was striving to be a pro athlete. Nobody was striving to be a rapper. You have popular artists, but they weren't rich like that. You have popular entertainers, you know, like baseball players and things, but like they were probably making the same as your everyday man. Now, all of our Black boys think the ticket out is to be a hooper, or football player, or a rapper. Maybe now it's an influencer.
Right.
We got that's like have those because I grew up loving Jordan, AI, Kobe, but
Absolutely.
but I also had other role models. So we gotta like take it as our responsibility to then begin. We gotta read with our kids daily. Show them examples of great people like Marcus Garvey, W.E.B. Du Bois, Booker T. Washington, you know, Ella Baker, Fannie Lou Hamer, you know what I'm saying, Mary McLeod Bethune, Ida B. Wells. We gotta show them like this is who you are in the lineage of.
Ernest, I was talking to somebody about that the other day. I was talking about, say, like anytime you got a dentist appointment, the first thing they do is they look up your history on your teeth, right? So Caucasian people like to do that, look up the history for that, or any medical history stuff. But when it comes to history, Black history, they don't want us to teach in the classes. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I was putting that too. It's like you want to talk about their history, but what about our history? You know what I'm saying? But to me, I feel like in my opinion, I think they embarrassed to talk about it. What happened to slavery back in the day? You know what I'm saying?
I don't think it's embarrassment. I think it's embellishment. I think they choose. I think the government, because the government is what chooses the curriculum ultimately. They could say, "Oh, you can't." Like Trump, first day he got on, said teachers are not allowed to teach like sexual orientation in class, which is crazy. Like not crazy, but like I get where he's going with it, and I also understand why. But like they can choose to tell the schools not to put Black history in the curriculum. So in knowing that, you only get, like Ernest said, 1 month out of a whole school year where you're legitimately talking about anything having to do with Black people, Black history outside of slavery. You know, they don't go into specifics about how they used to make slaves to make a stronger slave so they could sell them for a higher bid.
But I understand what you're saying, but what about our money, the dollar bill?
Absolutely.
Those presidents.
Absolutely.
You don't think those presidents had slaves?
Oh, they did.
The
Absolutely.
pennies and all that, and the dollars, but that's history.
Absolutely.
Talking about their history.
I think
what about
I
history?
think they do both, because in terms of the embarrassment and the embellishment, like there are some states that will say you can't teach about this period, right?
Right.
Where they'll ban AP Black history. Other states will just censor it, so they're like, you just can't learn certain perspectives. And that's the thing about what I do. When I say I'm a Black history teacher, I'm really like I'm not just giving you facts.
Right.
I'm trying to provoke you to do something with it. Like I think of it like I'm using Black history as a liberatory tool, as a justice tool. Because if I'm telling you your history or something, it's because I want you to think of yourself in a different way. Or if I'm like a lot of people talking about boycotts now, so I might show you history of boycotts so that you can think about how you can do it better.
Right.
I'm trying to like help us restore our historical memory. But like you said, even with the presidents, they don't want to talk about that part. So that's the embarrassment and the embellishment. They want to just talk about, oh, he was a great leader and he led us to become a American empire and stuff like that. But at the same time, he owned people. Right. And the third president, George Thomas Jefferson, talking about all men are created equal. But then you over here 500 people that you are enslaving, and you got a child that you're raping and things like that, and Sally Hemings. Yeah. But like, so how are we supposed to make sense of this, right? Those are the things they don't want our kids to know, because any sense of any child, regardless of race, if they learn the truth about something, they're gonna tell you, no, that's a bad person, that's a good person, and they're gonna make the appropriate decisions moving forward. There's more money in them keeping us divided, and that's why they invented race in the first place. It was because you had poor black folks and you have poor white folks coming together to fight back, and they say we can't have that no more, so we got to keep them separate.
That happened. I mean, when I was in history class back in the 70s, they told me Christopher Columbus came here and he found America and stuff. They didn't know he had slaves, and he killed the Indians off the land. Right. See, I didn't know that, but I'm believing that for years. Like, what's going on with this, man? He came here, he found this land. Right. And people are like, no, he didn't. He came in and killed people and took the land. So what they they brainwash us with that.
And that's why when you tell your kids, like, let them know when you go into the school, more than, especially if it's not a majority black school, even a majority black school, you got to watch too. But understand they're probably going to be learning everything from a Eurocentric perspective. Yeah, so it comes from the perspective of Europe is at the center of the world. So when Columbus discovered it for Europe though, but they don't add that part. Because Europe didn't know about it. He discovered it for Europe. Right. But there were people here for thousands of years. If they add that part, then they'll let you know that, that's just his perspective. Right. So they're so planning a European perspective and mindset in our kids. Brainwash.
At the same time, it's like Christopher Columbus didn't come here to find and take over our land. He came here just to expand the map. Because the map was only so far. After his first voyage here, because he did 3.
He thought he was in India.
Yeah, he sure did. But like, it was originally to expand the map. They didn't know what was beyond the waters because they never traveled that far. And once they found the land, they're like, oh, okay, now let's go see who's on the land. And then when they saw that, they're like, okay, now let's take the land. But like, whose right is that? Like, they're all right now. The U.S. is really big about like what's ours is ours. The U.S. is ours, but we took it from people. Like that's still an internal war that's going on between the Native Americans and
which is why it makes no sense to call anybody illegal.
Exactly.
You see what's going on with Trump right now. The Gulf of Mexico. He want to change the name.
To the Gulf of America. But
you know why he want to change the name? He want to take the land.
But that's exactly so. He's continuing that same tradition and pathology of white colonialism. So you come to a place, and then there's people here. But you name it something, but then the enforcement of the naming only can come through violence. So we know this as America due to the enforcement of violence. Otherwise, we would call it what indigenous people call it. Turtle Island, some people refer to it as. And now, of course, not everybody had this one uniform name because they didn't look at it as a united land. It was just, we live here and we're borrowing this land. They don't own the land. We ain't trying to buy, all these acres and set up a Walmart. We are here living in harmony with the land, So it's the same tradition, man. You come there, okay, this is Hispaniola. Okay, this is New Spain. Okay, this is New York. This is New Jersey. They just keep adding. So like the enforcement comes through violence. So if somebody says, well, we can't, let's call it Gulf of Mexico. It's almost like, well, how you gonna make me call it Gulf of Mexico then? We got the strongest military. And that's the whole basis of what they do.
And at the same time, it's crazy how like you said, at that point there's zero point in calling anybody illegal, right? Because like Mexico is still a part of the U.S. There is a slot of land.
The whole West Coast used to be Mexico.
So exactly.
And California. So for there to be even a wall is crazy. It's literally it's separation for power and in people not understanding the history of the U.S. to gain that power, and what they had to do to keep that power is almost, it's like bliss in ignorance.
Yeah. Man,
Because
I'm gonna ask you this: like ICE is going on right now. They're going around. I
Yeah.
just saw news this morning. You know, they raid people's houses in Chicago right now.
Absolutely.
To me, I just feel like Hispanic people have been living for years, earn what they're trying to do. They work hard for 20 years. I feel that you ain't got to take these people out the land. I feel the ones that came here without legal, with no ID identification, that's coming to the country, I feel they shouldn't be here. But the ones who work hard like the average American, I feel that they should stay. You know what I'm saying? That's just my opinion.
Here's the paradox of the whole thing. Hispanic folks, we talking like, again, that's something that's made up to quite, like a lot of Hispanic folks don't even refer to themselves as that.
Hispanic.
Some would probably just say indigenous, because truly it's indigenous Spanish ancestry. So these are people who were here before Europeans.
Exactly.
You know, here before we were brought here for the purpose of enslavement. They came here, if you're going to use the term, technically illegally, the European people, but it became a country because, again, they mastered violence better. That's pretty much how it is.
Basically.
So my whole thing is, I can't tell anybody you should go back if you ain't doing it the right way, because nobody did it the right way. You know what I'm saying? And I know I never had that experience because of our history, but the people I talk to tells me the process of even becoming a citizen, it's insane. It's not even realistic. You can be here for you can be 30, 40 years old, been here for 30 years, and still be waiting in line. You can be doing everything right.
Wow. And
the thing is, they, like, people who are, and I would say, you know, the term should be undocumented, you know, people, we dehumanize them by even saying illegal alien.
Right.
We gotta, like, the words that they use to describe us always is connected to dehumanization. They'll call us slaves instead of enslaved people, right? They won't refer to our actual lineage and ancestry. They'll call them illegal aliens, because the two things you get from that is illegal, it shouldn't happen, and alien, they're outside of our existence, they're subhuman. If you say undocumented person, that makes you feel, oh, well, that person just needs some documentation, let me help them out.
Right,
exactly.
You know what I'm saying? So that whole thing just don't even make sense on how we do that, and they contribute to our economy more than a lot of people, and are paying more higher percentage than
They work hard.
And then the U.S. gets mad at them for working hard, for doing it. It's like,
and we ain't saying nothing about the Ukrainian, European immigrants. It's always, when we talk about immigrants, the first thing, because they've made immigrants synonymous with brown people. You know, like, so, as opposed to, like, you're immigrants in Europe, Africa, there's Asia, but all we think of is, well, let's deport them and let's take them back to their country. It's like, all right, you ever thought about going back to Italy?
Aaron, you remember a couple of years ago, I don't know if you saw the news, when you remember them Haiti people was coming through the Gulf of Mexico, they were trying to,
They're chasing them down like dogs.
Chasing down like they had horses and stuff, and they took them back to Haiti. I don't understand what's the difference between that and the Hispanics in Mexico.
Well, they treat, so Haitians get viewed through the same lens as Mexicans. Brown immigrants are viewed as illegal aliens. You know, so, like, it's not like, again, when European folks are coming here, people ain't saying that. That's why I really caution folks in the black community to not be cheering this stuff on, because, for one, it's a human rights issue. They try to round up kids, and even historically, this doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense.
Secondly, there's never been a point in time in history when this primarily white government has said, let's make Mexicans go back so that we can better serve black people. They did that in the 30s, the Mexican repatriation, the Great Depression is going on. They round up Mexicans who were
I heard about that.
born here, some were born here citizens, and some were, they made them go back, and they still ain't give us nothing. FDR starts to sign New Deal policies and excludes us. They help build the white middle class, help give them home loans, don't give us anything. So this ain't something we should be cheering on. They're labeling us as that too, because the whole framework was, when they set it up, when Trump was talking about the Haitians eating cats and dogs in Ohio.
Yes,
so
that was
now,
crazy.
So now it's not just Mexicans that come to mind, or Hispanics. Now it's black people, period.
Exactly.
So it's like, it's a lose-lose. There is no winning in this game that they play.
Yeah.
We don't like the crumbs or nothing.
And I feel like this, for them to take these actions upon us and treat us the way they do and label us the way they do, it feeds into the cycle of the abused become the abuser. This cycle of power where we're gonna want to take over power. You know, there might be a day where we storm the Capitol and take. I mean, we're not.
I don't know if that's gonna happen. Sometimes.
I'm not gonna say we're like that crazy or anything, but like I do feel like they're edging us towards another civil war because of how they're treating us, how they're labeling us, how they're keeping us in this box that they don't want to let us out of. And when we do let it out, when we do make it out, we look at those people as icons and like as unreachable heights when it's so much easier for everybody else.
Right.
So once we decide to go after that power, then we will become the abuser, and the whole script will flip, but it'll be the same script.
Yeah, and history has shown that we've never done that.
Absolutely.
Like, because we're so concerned with just our livelihood, our community, love, like, and I say that to say that, like, we have the right to be angry and feel these things. But after slavery ends, primarily what we doing is trying to find our family. We're trying to build. We're trying to get some land.
Yeah.
We're like, leave us alone, and y'all just keep bothering us. Think about that. Slavery's over. We didn't plan, now we fought in the war to free ourselves, but we didn't plan a whole nother revolt against all the white people. We just said, give me my land, give me my money, let me find my family, I'm gone. And they just keep finding ways because whiteness, and I'm not talking about European people, I'm talking people who are adopting and thinking from their mindset, whiteness only exists on the back of black. That's it.
Yeah.
They can only feel great by pushing us down. And so that's the entire history. If you are truly great and supreme like you're trying to advertise, then these things don't matter to you. You don't focus so much on disenfranchising us and taking away DEI and affirmative action and stuff like that, because this country was originally affirmative action for white people. That's what this whole entity exists as. You think about that. Like, force these people to work, don't pay them. Push these people down. Use violence to eradicate these people. That's setting up a fixed game where you win. And the times when they don't, like, that's a miracle when we are able to even be here as black men, because we ain't supposed to be. And that's when they get upset, especially when we start to go into the spaces they are, because they're like, how did you do that when everything said against you?
Right? and like they look at you like you're like they're amazed, and they're like, oh, like, and you can see it on people's faces.
Yeah.
Like yesterday I was talking to this white lady, and she was telling me how, like, she's a huge Trump supporter, like, oh, everything he's doing is right, he's the right hand of God. Yeah. That's cool enough. I understand and I get your opinion, but at the same time, like, I had to tell her, she's like, oh, kneeling for the Pledge of Allegiance or the national anthem is disrespectful. And I'm like,
it went for us.
Exactly. I'm like, why would we respect a country that has only shown us disrespect? We are still slaves, whether we like it or not. They just changed the word to work.
Yeah.
Like, that's really all it is we still work for less than other people do. We still do more work for less, and we're still not giving more. The federal like minimum wage right now is $7.55. Imagine what the poverty rate is. Like, it's ridiculous. And most people in poverty are black people, are Hispanics, are people who are undocumented that came here to build themselves a better life, just to be put back into the same box, if not worse.
And you know what's crazy? Trump lost right now, and he always talk about them third world countries and second world countries. He trying to make our country like a third world country.
I was just thinking of that.
Yeah,
what you're saying.
You know, it's countries like Dominican Republic. Them people ain't got no unemployment line. You know what I'm saying? Unemployment line. No social security line. Them people out there hustling every day on the street.
Absolutely.
The idea,
like,
man, it's kind of what you're saying. Like, again, he's getting rid of so many, like, social safety nets, things we don't even consider. I would imagine, even what you're saying about the minimum wage, I would imagine he's gonna come after that too. Because why wouldn't he? If he's coming after student loans and grants, if he's coming after, food stamps and stuff like that, why wouldn't he say, well, let's give entrepreneurs more of a right to not pay people living wage? For one, you can't make none off $7.50, whatever.
Absolutely.
It has not changed since Obama was in office. We talking, I think that was 2009, so now we're talking 16 years.
Mm-hmm.
It's only going up, like when I was in high school, it was like $5 something. It's only going up $2 past 20 some odd years. Like, so it already ain't working for folks, especially if your state has not found a way to increase it. So that's definitely the thing. And the thing you bring up about that lady is crazy too, but it reveals the hypocrisy because they'll say they're for freedom of speech and now they can speak how they want to because Trump's in office and Elon Musk, all this type of stuff. But the moment that you say you're not content with the way things are going and you take a knee like Kaepernick, then they want to say you shouldn't be able to do that. And that's because they don't view us on the same level as humanity. We supposed to be subservient. They supposed to be able to have free speech and call us whatever, but we ain't supposed to be able to speak out.
And at the same time, I feel like that's taught. Like
Right.
they weren't born that way. Like I don't feel like anybody was born that way. I feel like that's what society is based on, and society teaches like you shouldn't be kneeling during the national anthem.
Right.
Why? When the set of people that are right, when it doesn't represent us. I feel like the national anthem represents basically white people in the U.S. because that's what it was made for. You know, that's who it was made for.
It's always like when I go to a basketball game and I'm sitting there and the national anthem come on, you know, before the game, they put the flag and everything, and I put my hat down on my heart and I'm thinking like, should I be doing this? In my mind, that's how I'm thinking. I'm like,
but that's how they
I don't support that, but if you stand there and kneel, everybody in the building will have a heart attack at you.
I just sit down. I just don't stand up. But
At that point,
I just kind of blend in.
It doesn't even represent us, man. You know what I'm saying?
But they start that training at 6.
Absolutely.
We started saying the pledge
It
at
brainwashes.
6.
Yep,
So by the time you start going to these games, you stand up every day doing this, saying the national anthem ain't nothing. If you start doing something at 6 and you do it every day till you 18, it's a part of you. I still know the pledge by heart, and I ain't said it in a long time. It's like you said, it's conditioned. That's how we're taught, and that's how they. I mean, everything is strategic in the society. Yeah.
Like the ABC.
Exactly.
That's something they brainwash us with.
Yeah.
You know
to learn the alphabet.
They trying to teach us how they was learning how to teach.
Absolutely.
How they learn. You know what I'm saying?
I feel like there needs to be. I mean, I know there's HBCUs. I know that HBCUs are all black people. Like I don't think I've ever seen a white guy. I've seen a white guy.
Some go.
Yeah, I was like, I know I've seen them at parties. I know I've
Yeah.
seen them, but like, I feel like they need to do the same with the school curriculum. I'm not saying completely take white people out of like grammar schools or high schools. No, I do feel like high schools should be diverse, but at the same time, it shouldn't be all U.S. history. I feel like history should be world history. Right, because we all bleed red. We're all the same. We're just different shades.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter.
I was talking about somebody about that the other day too, about inventing stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But black people invented a lot.
Absolutely.
They invented the red light, the stop sign, and all that. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Then I was talking to my son the other day about the airplane. He was saying the people that invented the airplanes. It was a black man that invented the planes, but they took his invention, and you know they upgraded it because they had the money. And to me, I think it's all about money. One problem with the HBCUs because right now they losing money right now. Like Tennessee State is going under right now. They run out of money, and the problem is what they do. They reel our kids into these Power 5 schools, Alabama's, LSU's, and the UCLA because they got the money.
Absolutely.
The HBCU schools ain't got the money.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And all the great athletes, majority of the great athletes are black. Period in the country.
Mm-hmm.
But they're taking our athletes and putting it in their schools and make money off them. Yeah. So the HBCU is going under right now. They dropping right now.
Let's speak on that too, because like I think when we speak about history and we think about what's going on now, I don't think we think that we're powerful sometimes. Because if you truly think about, okay, Kaepernick, for example, I was reflecting on this morning.
Right.
Kaepernick was probably 10 years too soon for a lot of folks.
Absolutely.
For a lot of people, because it's been almost 9 years. This dude could have had a long career.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe made it to the Super Bowl again, maybe another Pro Bowl, maybe just had a real nice career as a quarterback, backup or whatever. He did that, and only a couple brothers net with him. Absolutely. Right? Think about that, right?
Absolutely.
Kaepernick mirrored, and Kaepernick did not even yell, he didn't scream. He only spoke about it because they asked him. I know this dude, he's a soft-spoken guy. He took his knee. First he sat down, then he took the knee because he spoke to a veteran to be respectful.
It was a guy in the Marines, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it was a Marine.
Yeah.
he didn't disrupt the national anthem. He ain't go he ain't streak
nothing.
You know, he ain't rip off his jersey. Right. So he got banned. He got blackballed.
Banned forever.
And I'm gonna just think about if 5 more brothers or 5 white players, whoever, said, we're gonna take a knee with you. Or let's say if Tom Brady would have did it. We talking about prominent people in the league, right?
They wouldn't mess with him.
You see what I'm saying?
They wouldn't have banned him.
Right.
Like,
So
it would be a completely different situation.
exactly. Now, so 10 years later, we talk about boycotts this, boycott that. We didn't even support that brother in the most popular sport in our country, the most watched show in the world, probably next to the World Cup and the Super Bowl come on. But I don't think we can fully get to these places unless our entertainers and athletes are able to leverage that power in some way, because they have a large flow of money. To your point about black athletes, Mizzou, I want to say around the time Kaepernick did it, maybe a couple years prior, University of Missouri, they were dealing with some hate crimes on campus. There were a lot of young black activists coming together saying that, okay, we're gonna do hunger strikes, we're gonna protest, need this president to step down because we're the targets of these hate crimes and they ain't doing nothing.
Right.
Nothing happened until the football team said, if he don't step down, we ain't playing. And guess what he did? He stepped down because they was gonna lose so much money.
Yeah.
If college kids can do that, what does it take for some of our black athletes to then say in mass, we're gonna go to these schools instead, take our money? What would it take for some pros? I get it, y'all used to a certain lifestyle. They ain't really taught about themselves a lot. They taught to prioritize sports only. But what happens if we get 5 Kaepernicks? We don't need 100%.
You're right. It's like you were saying, like these black athletes like LeBron, they're all making a lot of money. What's wrong with them guys coming together and build their own NBA team?
But LeBron is talking now.
But I heard him. I heard him talking about getting 6 teams and traveling around the world and stuff.
He can do it.
Well, I'm gonna tell you how powerful the black woman is. Now that's a new league out. It's a 3-3 league. These 2 ladies got together.
Yeah, on Ryan.
And the WNBA, the WNBA used to play in the summertime, and then they got to go over Europe, make money. But what happened to Brittany Griner, she got arrested and gave her 9 years in Russia. They were like, we ain't doing all of that, mo. So we're gonna stay here and make our own money. So they got together and built their own little league, a 3-3, and it's growing.
Revolutionary.
It's revolutionary, and they raised up $25 million for NBA players. All raise the money up for them.
And they get paid more than they get paid to
In
play
the
the
WNBA.
full season in the WNBA. And they on TNT.
Yeah. And our black men, that's why I say, I always put it on Facebook, people don't get it. I said, black woman is the most powerful woman in the world. Period. Period. Because a black woman create everything in this world. So I'm just saying, I don't understand that.
We truly, I think we underestimate our power.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. But see, Ice Cube started this trend first.
Yeah.
Unrivaled kind of borrowed some of that. I think they made it a little better with the full court and stuff like that. But also too, they were trying to sabotage Cube.
Yeah,
because some of the innovative ideas he had, they gonna implement some of that in the All-Star weekend.
Yeah.
So like.
But even on the Olympic team, when they had that 3-on-3, they should have had Ice Cube
He
for
was
the
the
3-on-3
first one to
team.
do that on such a grand scale. So
you know what I'm saying?
all it takes is somebody brave with a platform, because Kaepernick, again, he was never viewed, I would say, as like one of the top few quarterbacks. But if he was one of those that did it too, it has even that much more of a bigger impact. So if we have some people at the top, but we're so comfortable, these dudes can make $100 million a year. Yep. It's gonna come to a point now. We're talking about all these things being rolled back with Trump and stuff like that, when they will be like, think about that, making $100 million, and the kids in a community like a Chicago or New York or whatever that admire you can't even afford to eat.
Yeah.
Can't even afford now to get a loan to go to school.
Or to see you play.
To see you play, right? We know, based on value, a lot of our athletes and entertainers should be worth way more. We started in the hole a little bit, of course, with our history.
Exactly.
But because of how much we give to them, ticket sales, merchandise, attention, we gonna need them to step to the forefront. More specifically, they need to align themselves with people who know what they're talking about. Because I don't want my athletes and rappers to be like spokesperson leaders. I want y'all to use y'all finances, link up with people who do the work and study. Right. That's what made Kaepernick so successful, I think, what he's doing now, because he's well read, but he also linked up with a lot of dope people that know what they talk about. He ain't just no athlete.
Right.
That dude is brilliant in the stuff that he's doing. If more people follow that path and that trend, then we can start talking, because once they stop it's bred in circuses. Once they stop the circuses, everybody gonna start paying attention. That's the reason when Cap did it the first time, Donald Trump was calling him all types of names, because he knew he had to demonize him, because if it spread, then everybody's running away from the plantation. You bankrupt the plantation when you run away from it.
And I think what we're speaking on Kaepernick is just showing how hypocritical the system is, right? Because that whole knee thing happened. So much has happened since then, and just within the last year, they started putting end racism on every single NFL field, on both ends.
Yeah, I saw that.
And they make sure to pan over it too.
It's so corny.
Every game.
It's so corny.
And it's like yeah, and they put it on the helmets, and I get it, and
They doing
for
all
it.
that.
Right, they're doing all
Is it
that. But
working?
when we stand up for it, we're penalized. When we come forward and say this is what's happening, we're at fault.
They don't see value in it in this country unless they can profit off of it.
Absolutely.
So it's like, let's get a hold of this first. All right, put it on some shirts, put it on the ground, put it on the field.
Yeah.
And then let's create a whole. What they do, they create like a whole department, I guess, within the NFL that focuses on social justice initiatives. All because of what he did, but he can't even get a job in the NFL.
Exactly. He can't play the game he loves anymore. That he did.
All those owners and NFL owners, I tell you a whole lot about them.
Absolutely. And Jay-Z's one of them.
I'm telling you, is it a plantation or is it the NFL?
I mean, of course, because when you say something like that, people are already gonna be, oh no, it's not, because they making a bunch of money. So I can't say it's exactly a plantation. It's not, right? But the whole model of our economy is based on the plantation economy. Like you got the people, like think of a factory. You're doing all the hard work, all the labor, Amazon warehouse or factory, right? You got the overseers, the managers are making sure you're doing your work. They whipping you. But the people who are really inflicting the most harm are the ones you don't see. They in the big house, the owners.
They're not even in the warehouse.
It's the same thing. And look at Jerry Jones. Jerry Jones he has the same mentality. He was in Arkansas when black kids was being spat on and having things thrown at them, trying to integrate schools. He's in the picture. You see that?
I saw that.
I don't know his whole history, but I'm gonna just assume he's a descendant of enslavers. He got that same mentality. He can't probably catch a football, let alone throw one. But when he looks at those black men on the field, he sees
the same
objects to make him wealth.
You see the same
right?
thing.
And I don't know if y'all remember seeing that clip when Jamie Foxx was watching.
I saw that when he was saying something about
he started talking about
his private parts.
Bro, that's the same way they would look at us.
Jamie left when he said that.
He cut that off. Yep, that's the same way they would look at us on the plantation block. So it ain't the same dynamics, but the mentality and the structure is the same. And if you can't speak out without being okay, everybody ain't got to agree with you. But if you're speaking out against a commonly known immoral injustice leads to you losing millions in your job, then that's a form of slavery.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It comes from that. I mean, me and you were talking about that a couple weeks ago about what the racism come from.
Yeah,
it come how you was raised.
Yeah, how you were raised.
How your parent is the main one that got you thinking that way.
Not just the parental aspect, but what they learn in school. If you go home.
So you think it's the parents?
No, I do think it's the parents.
I'm
saying,
I think it's everything too.
I'm saying
agree.
If you go home, right, and your parents are racist, they're going to teach you racism. Absolutely. Now, if you go to school and they're only teaching you white history, and then you get once a month black history, or once a year black history, then you are conditioned to think racism in school as well.
It reinforces.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I feel.
It's reinforced. It goes both ways.
It's reinforced, and I feel like that's how the system was rigged against us, because originally we are not technically indigenous. Like we came here, we were shipped here, but at the same time, neither are the people who run the country. They're not indigenous either. So why are we holding a knife against each other's necks when there's no need for all of that? Like it's all about power. It's for power. It's for greed.
And racism was created for capitalism to keep resources away. It's this idea that we're gonna run out of stuff. Imagine. I've heard an astronaut once say everything seems so trivial when I'm in a spaceship, or shuttle, just looking at space from the planet from above. You don't see any of the barriers. You see like just endless amounts of water. You're able to see like this vision of humanity that doesn't exist for us right now. But it speaks to the point that a lot of these things we argue about are really stupid. When you really break it down, you're talking about skin color. That's why you don't like somebody, skin color, hair texture.
Right.
Instead of appreciating the difference, you want to use that as a way to kill me or say I shouldn't have food or something like that.
Exactly.
So the idea that we could run out of something that, from my belief, that God gave us, like for everybody.
Right.
If we can all exist here, I believe there could be enough for everybody here.
Absolutely.
You walk down the street, bro, you don't even see trees with fruit on it. That don't even make sense. Little things like that. They tear down everything that would be life-sustaining so that we have to rely on them.
Absolutely.
This capitalism. So, and they don't, and racism, they don't really even truly care about all white people. It's really just the ones that can make the most money, but they use the poorer ones or the middle class ones as pawns to protect the ones who are making the most money. And to your point too about like it being learned at home, I always look at it like, how marketing goes. So I might see a commercial and be like, oh, it looks like a decent movie. But if I come here and you tell me you saw it and you liked it, well, dang, I trust them, so I might have to go check that out.
Yeah.
And then if another person tell me,
Now
I gotta go see it, right? So if your
right.
parents racist, like you said, then you go to school and they ain't gotta be explicit. It could just be a little covert stuff, like you said, you've never seen yourself. And you're like, yeah, maybe they right about these black people.
Right.
And then you listen to a president and he's like, oh, yes, something is wrong with them, right? And it becomes like affirmed every time you go throughout your society. It's these pillars of socialization, man.
Yeah, I experienced that with one of my little kids. She was about 7 years old, and we was at a basketball game, and one young lady was playing with my kid on the same team, and my daughter came crying to me because her best friend was a white boy. They were about 7 years old, and they were just playing, and the white boy told me, he said, my mother parents told me that I can't marry a black woman when I get older. And she was crying. And I had to have a conversation with her. I said, don't listen to that, what I'm saying? That's how they, that's their opinion, but it's not like that in real life. But that's how you learn from stuff and you see stuff.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? You see it in your eye. Now she's 14 years old. Now she's really seeing it. Because we at a certain school, she was like, yeah, that school, some of them teachers, they something else. She told me this. She told me, and me and Ernest talked about it too. So
I got one more question for you, my guy, and then we'll get you out of here. You think this is a bright idea or a bad decision?
Man, bright idea to have me here.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Bright idea.
Great idea.
Bright idea to do what y'all doing, man. Like I just met you. You seem like a great dude.
Yes,
Anthony's
sir.
a stand-up guy in the community, what he does here with his family and everything. So these are the conversations we need in our community, man.
Absolutely.
So,
And I feel like we should continue having this conversation throughout with everybody. It's not just one person. Hopefully we get you back here in a year
Definitely.
or so, and we see how everything's changed, how everything happened with this book. You want to sponsor yourself?
Oh yeah, so the book, How Black History Can Save Your Life, is coming out spring of 2025. So whenever you see this, it might be closer to the date. It might have already came out. You can find it any website that's selling books, but I would prefer you go to my website, ernestcrim.com. I got a link to Barnes & Noble. Also, any black-owned bookshop, bookshop.org. That's my preference. I prefer that you do not get my book from Amazon because I want to try my best to support people who I know for sure are supporting our community in some way. And also, too,
Absolutely.
yeah, you can find me online at mrcrim3. I'm on every social media site.
And I'm gonna put his social media and his book link in the bio in the description. So thank you guys for coming for another episode of Bright Ideas and Bad Decisions. We hope you guys enjoyed it as much as we did. Have a great day. Stay warm. Stay safe. And just be great.